Hello.
Hey, Jacob, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Good. How are you going? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been busy recently. We've been, I, and various members of the team have been kind of here, there, and everywhere. Andre's been to Flat Camp recently. Ross and I have been to a conference in London. There's just been kind of a lot going on. It's been good to get out and meet people, but it's also been good to kind of get to your desk and get some work done. But how's your last week been?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like getting to the point of having back to full days of working has been quite nice. Moving out of months of bank holidays and things like that, which is good. But yeah, good. A lot of thinking work at the moment. We're in a space of seeing clients in a state of, okay, right, summer's coming up. There might be holidays going on, but we're looking now to September onwards when we're back full up, ramping up fully. So it's a lot of planning for that, a lot of sharpening the axe, ready for kind of September-y time, it feels like at the moment, which is great, but it just means a lot of
brain stuff.
Epiphanies in the shower and brain usage. But anyway, that's good. It's fun.
It's good. And we've had lots of people reaching out to us recently regarding possible new projects, which is really fun. And a few of those projects have been around CRM systems. So that's what we're going to chat about today. We're going to chat about CRM systems, mistakes you're making, and what's going on. So I've made some notes on today, but Jacob, it'd be good to put you on the spot and for you to give everyone the most concise definition you can think of for what is a CRM system.
Right. CRM, customer relationship management. Relationship management is relationship the word?
I think so.
CRM. It gets so used to it, obviously just being classed as CRM. But CRM across multiple businesses is essentially a data store within things. So the key fundamental elements of it is the fact that information comes in around customers or community members or whoever it is in your network, and you should have data collected upon them. So that usually covers name, email, contact number if it's from a sales perspective. We've just been doing we're doing our work with the European Climate Foundation, which has been really good fun. And their CRM goes far deeper, so it then captures the interest of their members, what country-specific information they be in, what kind of briefing information they like to look for, where they've come from, any comments. So it's a real expansion. You've got CRM tools like Salesforce or HubSpot or Capsule, things like that. You've then got deeper layers of CRM, where some CRMs have engagement features, where you can then, as emails come in, a CRM will have you can actually power all your emails through here. You can tag people as to where they might be at a pipeline or journey, and so on. It's the hub of where most people should be living when engaging with their users, members, whoever it might be. Most people use them from a sales aspect. I think everyone should use them from a relationships perspective. If I was to get hit by a bus, you, Pete, know that my conversation with Hannah about this happened yesterday, and it was a good conversation, and so on and so forth. That's more of a feature list of what a CRM, though, I suppose, is, rather than necessarily what the overarching definition is.
Oh, it's good. So I'm currently rewatching The Office, as I generally am. And spoilers, but it came out a long time ago, so I'm allowed. Michael Scott's just started his own paper company, the Michael Scott Paper Company. And Ryan and Pam are flicking through his Rolodex, and they're like, this is wild. And they turn over a card, and he's got a system where if it's green, it means he doesn't talk to the customer about it. And if it's orange, it's like, orange, you glad I talked to you about this? So it'll be like, has son 12. And it's like, that is Michael Scott's CRM system. That's where all his customer information is. That's all his relationships are. And every now and then you do see Michael Scott leaning into actually being really good at his job, which is a fun little tidbit, because in America, if you're not good at your job, you just get fired. There's less laws around it.
Whereas in the UK, you could.
It's different.
You just stick around and forever. Anyway, I could do a whole podcast about the office.
One of the differences between the US. One of the differences between the US and the UK office is that Michael Scott actually has to be half good at his job. And you see him pick up the phone and you see him use these cards as kind of his tool for getting to know people and writing down notes and stuff. And that is basically what a CRM system is. It's where you stick your customer relationship stuff, and they're varied. Like you said, you've got HubSpot. We use Pipedrive. There's a million other ones you could use. And for lots of folk, this is an absolutely critical part of your company. Like if you meet someone at a company and their job is like Salesforce master, they will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about Salesforce because they're so deep ingrained in everything in this business works through Salesforce. And then you'll meet people who use a CRM system really lightly. But it's really important. So we're going to chat today about it from a community point of view, but also a business point of view. Because if you are running a community, you still have you can rename it your community relationship system. You still need to know what's going on. Whether you're running a Slack community or forum, there are tools and things you can layer on top of those existing tools. Something like Common Room or whatever the tool is to kind of have a deeper understanding of your customers and community members on what they're doing. So today, you're going to say something. You say that first, then I'll say my bit.
I was going to ask you a question about it. So you dive in and I'll ask you, I've got a question.
Today. So you go on then, you go first.
Blooming remote. So what I was going to start off and from a conversation perspective is we spoke about Salesforce, spoken about HubSpot, you spoken about Pipedrive. I know there's things like Zoho and things like that. If you type in CRM for a community or CRM for a brand and business, you're going to be overloaded mostly with articles about what's the top 10 that people have paid to be on the top spot. But where should people start within this? What should people look for? I know we'll get into the details of things in a minute, but
absolutely.
Where should we start?
So I think, so picking a CRM system for you, it's going to completely depend on whether you are a 3-person florist or whether you're a multinational, company turning over millions or billions of pounds or dollars. It's a completely different way you're going to approach it. But what you need to do is you need to check that the system is right for you, and you need to check you can afford it. So, the today's topic, as everyone will guess on the name, is 6 CRM mistakes you're making. So not picking the right CRM system is up there. So let's jump into that. So you need to think about whether or not this CRM system that you are going to start using is correct for you. If you're coming from nothing, you're coming from a piece of paper with some notes written on or a spreadsheet or something, you need to really look at the feature set, the friendliness, and the cost, because those things are really important. Is it going to do the things you need it to do? And you don't need your CRM system to do absolutely everything. It's not meant to take over your world, but it needs to do the basics. It needs to store customer information and probably email people. That's what you need it to do. Your use case will probably have specifics on it. It needs to be user-friendly. If it isn't user-friendly, people aren't going to use it, and it's just going to be a tool that no one uses. So it's got to be something that...
we're talking about internal team, aren't we, here? We're talking about when you say no one uses it. It's not about customers using it. For people for those who might not know too much about CRMs, it's not about customers using it. Customers will never know it's there.
They should know
internal team members onboarding.
Yeah, but so as an example, if you're FD, if you're financial director, if it takes them 3 hours to pull a report on what are your active customers, they're just never going to use it. They're just going to have a spreadsheet that they hide in the background to just update every so often because they're just not going to want to use your tool. So it needs to be usable and it needs to be cost effective. These tools scale in cost outrageously fast. You think, you get your first 5 seats free. And you're like, oh, that's good. And then as soon as you add that 6th one, all of a sudden you're paying £400 a month or something. Like it scales really quickly with costs. And depending on your size of organization, you need to be very aware of that. We use Pipedrive at Steadfast. And you go to add a feature, something like, the ability to add contracts. It's an add-on feature. You go, I'm going to add that. And because it's on a per seat basis, the cost just scales so quickly. And before you know it, you're paying, hundreds or thousands of pounds for a tool per month. And you really do need to consider that in what you're doing.
So it sounds like a good thing to start off with then is to, as you say, write on a piece of paper or something. You're like, why do I need this? And what does it need to do? Because I can, knowing how these things kind of work, is that often, obviously, when you speak to someone or you book a demo, which very, very highly recommend you do. Yeah. But it is a salesperson on the other end of that call, not not an advocate for you, as it were. Sure. So just being really kind of careful within that and say, okay, right, well, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And hopefully doing a load of demos actually might help you build that list at the end to make a decision as well, to say, oh, actually, you know what? So Jenny, let's talk about florist. So Jenny's running a florist, be like, she'll come in and be like, hey, can I just add you in for details? Well, actually, you've seen that Mary has bought flowers every month for the past 3 months around this kind of time. This month she hasn't. Well, the date, that's the data that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to get in touch with Mary and say, hey, would you like us to deliver you some this month? Or things like that. That's where the discovery could come from. So having that, sounds like having a good brief is kind of a good starting point. Is that right?
Yeah, no, agree. And what you'll find is, as you do your deep diving, you'll find that there's probably 2 or 3 CRMs out there which are designed just for florists. And actually that might be the right tool for you. And you'll find that each niche has their own kind of flavor of CRM system. You don't have to go with one of the standard kind of big ones. And in fact, a lot of the people we work with when we're building CRM systems find that they're not getting what they need out of what they need, because their thing is so bespoke. Maybe it's a school and it's a very bespoke set of features. And actually they find that all the other stuff just gets in the way and it's too much fluff and they don't want the monthly commitments. So they come and build something bespoke with us because what they need is so precise rather than generalized. So picking the right CRM system is probably the first, not picking the right CRM system is the first big mistake you can make when it comes to picking, working with a CRM system. Should we go on to number 2?
Yes, you said 6, right? So let's work through that. What are the other things that we can do and keep an eye out for?
Your CRM system is filled with garbage. Literally, garbage in, garbage out. If there is just a load of rubbish data in your CRM system, the reporting's pointless. No one's going to use it. If every time I go into the CRM system to grab Jenny's phone number and I get it and it's missing a digit, I'm just going to stop using it. Like, it's just rubbish. It's got to be good. And we have this often when we take on a project, Jacob. Like, we tell the client, like, we don't know how long data migration is going to take because we don't know how garbage your data is. We've worked on some really, really shocking stuff where we've taken on a database where, instead of leaving a phone number field blank in a CRM system, they've literally written the words "no phone number given," and you're like, "Oh, what am I meant to do with that?" Like, that's just a nightmare.
But then the next blank field will be "no phone number." And then the next one will be phone number missing. So it's not even a search and replace. It's just a whole mess of things. Yeah. So consistency.
And the phone number is like actually stored in the postcode field or something ridiculous. And that's because your CRM system hasn't been correctly strict enough to manage what it expects. Like, I know a phone number is going to be between X and X number of digits, right? It can't have a P in it. So we can set that validation. But anyway, so it's filled with garbage. It might have wrong data. It might have too much data. And either of those things are frustrating. I don't need to know every breath a client took. I don't know how we would record that anyway. But what I need to know is emails they've sent the company, big action points they're doing, contracts they're thinking about signing, potentially some things like we often store if a client's vegan, because that way at Christmas we don't send them a box of meat. Or it's just little stuff like that which you can store in your CRM system, which is really helpful when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's getting that balance of, we want good, correct data. We've talked about this before on previous episodes, but we also want it to be not overwhelming when you land in there and you're like, I didn't need to know what Jenny's pet cat was called. Like, I don't know why someone recorded that. Unless it's Jenny's absolute passion, she loves talking about it. I don't need to know. So that's number 2. It's filled with garbage. Any thoughts on that, Jacob?
I mean, I think you said it all. All there. I mean, the word garbage is a more polite word than what we usually use internally. But I hear you.
It's a family-friendly show. Number 3, your CRM system. Your CRM system is only used by one person. Now, this is a bit of a cop-out. If you're a one person or a tiny team, then potentially your CRM system is only used by one person. But it's incredible how many larger teams we speak to, and it turns out that only the head of sales ever updates the CRM system, which is crazy. Like, why is your financial director not in there? Why is your head of client services not in there? Why are all these things not in there? Let's take a hotel as an example. Let's say a hotel CRM. You've got your sales team in there. Jacob turns up to the Hilton every Wednesday because he's got a trip in London every Wednesday, and he stays in the Hilton. Great. Turns out every time he goes to the service desk to check in, they've always made a mistake. Now, wouldn't it be helpful if the service desk could add a note on his account? So when he next called up, they go, we've always noticed, Jacob, that you've booked a twin room, but you always end up with a double. Let's sort that. And it's those kind of little things that can help internal teams get across sentiment of how a client is feeling. You might turn up for your 5th trip to the Hilton and just be generally fed up with the service you're getting. And actually, for the sales team who are going to try and upsell you next time, what they don't need to do is upsell you. What they need to do is put your mind at rest that you're being looked after and that there's quality control and teams are talking. Because what you don't want to be doing is picking up the phone to someone going, Jacob, I've got a great deal. I would love you. And you're like, did you not know I just had a massive falling out with your customer support team? And they're like, no, we had no idea. And that those teams are CRM systems where they should be talking.
It's that unified brain of information about each of your customers. That across the board, again, it is something that it's something that should be a point of delight or contentment for your customers, if we're talking about that kind of experience perspective. But the opportunity for it to dip down is exhausting from that, and that is what's going to really drive negative relationships for between businesses. So that unified brain across the board for sure.
And on that notes element, so let's presume you're running a community of accountants. It's an online community. I've just chatted with a new accountant that's joined, had a little introductory call. He tells me he's taking an accounting exam next month. Super. Leave a note on there, set a reminder in 1 month, check up with Alex, see how his exam went. It's those little things you can do in a CRM system where you can take it out of your brain, put it somewhere, and you don't have to think about that anymore. What you don't want to be doing is storing all of these little bits and bobs in your brain, because you'll be in the shower and you'll be like, I wonder if Alex passed the exam. No, that's a waste of your time. You need a CRM system telling you to go ask Alex to do it, or even better, just go, send the email for you. But you need to get stuff out of your brain and into the CRM system, because your headspace is too valuable to be loaded with this stuff.
Relationship, just consistent relationship. Your customer or your member has a relationship with the brand, not an individual. Keep it that way, and that's what the CRM does. But also, as well, this then supports making your life easier, because then you can add in things like automations. Check Alex, if we know Alex has got an exam at that time, actually it could be an automated message. It doesn't have to be that you on the day send the message. It could be an automated message, but don't then not have a note in the CRM that says automated message scheduled. So if you're out, someone else picks it up and sends a message, but you've already automated it, so they get 2 messages. It's operational. This is fundamentally down to that kind of process.
And a CRM system isn't going to replace customer support. It's not going to replace your sales function. It's not going to replace your community manager. Like all technology, it's there to support and accelerate. Like a good CRM system will help your sales go through faster, will help your community members climb that participation ladder, because you can engage with them on a deeper level. There's no way Jacob could know everything about all 1,000 members in this community, this made-up community of accountants. But what you can do is have a really good CRM system, which is logging that stuff. I will leave an event, and the first thing I'll do on my train home is I will update bits and bobs in a CRM system, being like, chatted to Josh about this, chatted to Kat about this, and I will update bits and bobs of the CRM system. And I'll often set reminders being like, they mentioned this is happening. And it gets out of my brain somewhere else, because otherwise I'll forget it. So that was number
3, 4,
that was number 3.
That was number 3, for sure. Okay, cool. So what's next, Pete? What else do you think? What else are we talking about from the
fundamentally think a CRM system for the majority of people should be able to do outbound stuff. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, it can send email. I just think it's so much easier if I can run a report, get every customer that we've worked with or every member that we've engaged with over the last 12 months, and I'm going to blanket them an email. Now, I'm sure in CRM systems that can't send email, you could export that, you could move it up to MailChimp, but what a faff, come on, that's a nightmare. So what I really love, like in Pipedrive, and their campaigns feature, is we can set up a campaign. So everyone, have a great summer, that sort of stuff, maybe an email, and then maybe we could do a follow-up. And depending on what a customer is doing with us, depends on what email flows they go on. So maybe if they're in our top 10% of spenders, actually that email flow, that email is worded differently. Maybe they're invited to an exclusive event. Maybe this happens, maybe a follow-up. You can do all of this. And, for us, we're doing a lot of outreach to membership communities, and the campaigns that I'm building around these customers potential customers we want to engage with is a flow of emails being like, here's some really helpful, data about the report or your membership or whatever it is. And I just feel like your CRM system should be able to send email.
And it's that just connection. And if it sends email, your whole team can be using it. Everyone could be, if that is where you're spending your time, rather than necessarily in a different mail client, and then your CRM, and then somewhere else, as you mentioned, somewhere like MailChimp and stuff like that, it's just going to decrease the reasons why you're not going to use it as a full team. Someone's going to get annoyed in time, and that'll be the first thing to drop off. So having it as a fundamental core feature, I totally agree.
Which leads really nicely on to issue number 5 people make with their CRM system, which is they pick a CRM system that doesn't connect to things. So we do a lot of HubSpot, Salesforce integrations. So they've built maybe a membership platform or a learning management system. And understandably, they don't want to manage 2 databases. They don't want to manage 2 databases of customers. They don't want to manage it in their learning management system. And they don't want to manage, so I'm thinking of Resurgo here, and they don't want to manage it on Salesforce. So what we do is we use the Salesforce database, because Salesforce surprisingly has an excellent API, and we can pull all of the users from there and we can sync that data, and it works really smoothly. And having a CRM system which has a good API, and very quickly when someone tells us about a CRM system we've never heard of, and we open up the API documentation, I can tell you whether or not it's good or not. Within seconds, I can tell you whether or not this is an API we want to work with, is really important. Having a really healthy marketplace as part of your CRM system is really helpful. Like if I want, HubSpot to integrate with our billing system or our, other accounting system or our time tracking system, that can all happen. And having those choices really opens the door, and especially a good API, because when you do come to build those really bespoke, really random niche things that only your business cares about, then if you don't have an API, you're stuck. One thing I will, before I hand over to you, I would love and I would pay good money for is a integration into Pipedrive, which is our CRM system, which can send mail. So when I was young, when I was like 16, I used to work for a company, and they had this incredible integration into, I don't know what the service was called, from their CRM system, where they could bulk send physical mail. And I'm like, I love that. That's incredible. They're like, so like sending an email, they're like, bulk send this. And it's just done. I'm like, that's incredible. I would love that.
It's kind of like how people try and move around this sort of stuff now with integrations into things like Zapier. That's why Zapier kind of exists, is it talk exactly about this kind of stuff. But even that is exhaustive to set up and completely dependent on what that Zapier integration looks like. But again, it's why so many people come to us and we speak to people about data, data warehouses, CRM systems and things like that, and to have and to custom build them, even from a state of for tags being triggered. So someone's purchased this product, or they've donated to this place, or they've interacted with this. You can add informational tags to their account in the CRM, which then helps you again tailor your marketing, your relationship, the communication. It just helps personalize everything. With any of this, and then people start. This is the point where people start to freak out a little bit, where you start to collect all this kind of data. However, these people are often using YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, and all this stuff lives on their databases anyway.
Yeah, and also so for instance, when we invite people to a dinner, and they come along to one of our community dinner clubs, I create a list of those people, so I know who's been, because otherwise I'll forget. And when we come to like re-invite folk, I can kind of make sure stuff is well distributed. I'm not collecting data without them knowing they turned up to the dinner, right? Like it's just stuff that, rather than it being in my head, it's written down somewhere that I can view. It's not like we're installing some kind of software onto their phones while they're there and listening to their calls and finding out what sort of dog food they buy. Google are already doing that for you, so I wouldn't be too worried. But yeah, I was Ross and I were at an event a couple of weeks ago, and one of the first things the event organizer said was, it was all about operations. It was like, if Zapier broke or we lost our Zapier account, our business would no longer run. And he made a joke of it. And I was thinking, that's terrifying. Like, I would expect he's got hundreds of Zaps set up to move data from left, right, and center. And I'm just thinking, Zapier works, but I personally wouldn't trust something like that with business sensitive or business critical data. I would want a well-tested API. If it breaks, it's just going to break. It's not going to tell you when or how or what or if, but a good, well-written API integration will mitigate a lot of that. And it scares the crap out of me.
And it's exactly what we've just done with the European Climate Foundation with their information hub, is removing, they were using make.com.
Yep.
But quite a critical user management flow item. And it broke. It consistently broke. No one could get access to the website or sign up to the website and issues. So it's just like, this is mad. We can't do this. So one of the first things we did was overhaul the user management system, and for their connection to their CRM and then mailing marketing client is connected via API. So removing this. So yeah, absolutely.
Let's go on to our final.
Zapier is all about automation, which I think is the final point.
Final point.
So let's talk around that.
We've got a couple of minutes left. So let's whittle through automation. I have a bit of a thing when it comes to processes in our agency, which you and Ross will know because you're the ones who often hear the most about it, is that if a process isn't automated, it won't happen. I've already mentioned it earlier, a few minutes ago, but if a process is in someone's head, it will happen for a bit and then they'll just kind of start forgetting about it. So if it turns out that when a customer makes their first payment, we send them a box of flowers, right? We don't, but let's presume we do. If that was a manual thing where every time an invoice comes through, our bookkeeper has to tell Ross, who has to then tell someone to order some flowers, like, it's just never going to happen. It will happen the first couple of times. What we actually need is payment to come through, that to trigger an event, that event to be triggered at a task for someone. And when someone marks that task as complete, it kind of loops the circle, right? That is what I mean by automations. Telling someone once a month they need to import a spreadsheet. I'm like, that's cool. They'll do it the first 2 times and then they'll go on holiday. They'll be away when it's meant to happen. They'll forget the month after. And before you know it, it's just broken. And these automations, We're not talking about some crazy fancy API where we automatically, pull their data or write them a handwritten note, or like nothing crazy. Let's just get the basics right. And let's make sure that if we have put a process in place around our CRM system, that when customer or community member has been with us a year, we send them a congratulations. Great. Let's automate that. Because if you don't automate it, I can promise you it won't happen more than 5 times. It just won't. You'll just forget.
These could be really small things as well. So, for example, going to a community event or going to an event and something like that. Most of these systems have a connection to calendars, Google Calendars, or Microsoft Calendars, things like that. I know that we do this Pipedrive, is that when an event goes into my calendar, it also goes into Pipedrive, which then also adds a task for me to then be able to make notes from after the call and do the summary, get the video. Here's you've just had a meeting, Jacob. Here's what you need to do from this sort of stuff to make sure it's captured. We use some fantastic tools like Grain and Loom and things for meetings anyway. It's ideal. But also just from a small aspect, a great example of process that wouldn't necessarily say is automated, but is automated, is that our design team, when we're designing platforms or websites, we have a process flow that we run through, right? Rather than me telling our design teams and saying, hey, Dan, this is the process. This is the process of how to do it when Dan's onboarded into the company. And then Dan needs to remember that every time. Like, well, no, we use Asana for our task management. So when we set up a project, we've got it so the tasks of that flow are set up that we run through, and the team know, and so the team can follow that. It's that as an automation rather than necessarily of when you do this is going to trigger this event and this is going to happen over here and all that sort of stuff. It's just about making it simpler for you.
I'm incredibly proud of the automations we have at Steadfast. So, for instance, when we finish, when this is finished, it will then go to various people. So, for instance, this is finished in Asana. It will get moved over. That then creates a new task for our video editor to go make the short videos. That will then create a task for our copywriter to then go write copy about it, to then schedule it. When we finish this video and we move over to Asana, 20 new tasks are made for various people with the correct dates and everything just happens. We sit here, we talk for half an hour, and out of that becomes a bunch of really great content that I'm really proud of. But that's all automated, and not through AI, just through some really good processes and really great tools around it. And I think people often just think, oh, it's in my head. But like you said, if someone gets hit by a bus, a surgeon can't extract that from your head. Also, if you got hit by a bus, I think the last thing they care about is whether or not your process for marketing is extracted from your head.
Agreed.
Let's whittle through the 6 things. Let's summarize them.
Absolutely. Let's do a recovery. I know we're going over time a little bit, and obviously there'll be an article written about this people can refer to. And again, talk to Pete whenever you want about automations or any of this, to be honest, because he will talk far more than he has now, which is very interesting. But wrapping it up, Pete, let's just touch upon those 6 points again, and the key things that people can walk away with.
Cool. So number 1, pick the right CRM system. It's really important you give it real thought. It is painful moving CRM systems. You do not want to be doing it often. It's a little bit like moving house. It's probably worth it when you do it, but my gosh, it's not the sort of thing you want to be doing every month. Number 2, your CRM system is filled with garbage. And if it's filled with garbage, no one's going to want to use it. It's going to be terrible to use and basically just give you pointless reporting. Number 3, it's probably only being used by one person. It needs to be being used by as many people as possible, including your finance department, including various elements, because if it's not, they're missing a trick and your teams aren't communicating in the correct way. Number 4, it needs to be able to really send email, or depending on what your business is, potentially send SMS or whatever it is, but it needs to be able to send stuff just to make your life easier. Number 5, it doesn't connect to things. If the API is a SOAP API written in 2009, that does not count as an API. I want a proper RESTful API that I can trust. And when someone updates it, it doesn't take 2 days for the API to come back up. Spoilers, we have a client who has a SOAP API as part of their systems. And when they update the CRM system, it takes 2 days for it to come back online. I don't understand either. Number 6, it needs to have some sort of automation flows. And we're not talking about AI magic that can generate pictures of clients on the fly. We're talking about really simple, just when this happens, do this sort of stuff. And that's my summary. That is 6 mistakes you are probably making with your CRM system.
I actually think this is one of those conversations, Pete, where there will be like people, if people are watching this, we know people watch these. When people are watching, give a bit more confidence, Jacob. When people are watching these, like there will be questions in and around things. I think the reason why we're speaking about them is because we handle this stuff for Chris, for Enclave, for Shorefield, for LMS, Resurgo. There's actually, Resurgo, Salesforce, Enclave, HubSpot, 2 massive CRMs, that sort of stuff, but also building custom CRMs for handling that sort of stuff as well.
We're currently talking to two new people this month about some massive CRM systems, like entirely bespoke. Like this is the stuff we do in, day out.
Absolutely. I think to open that as a point of just feel free to give us a call. We'll happily talk to you about how we can help. In all of that. I think actually one of the key fundamental points of what we are amazing at is making sure that data is good. Find My Leisure Vehicle, things like that. That was a big unraveling of things that we to get into a nailing point. So
nice.
Amazing. Well, thanks. Thanks for running through that, Pete. Great to catch up and chat through that again. Keep an eye out, obviously, for this written as an article and more information. But look forward to catching you next week, Pete.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week.